nice Friday morning, and it's been rough. I never really stopped talking. As I told Mom, I never really stopped talking. You couldn't hear me anymore. But so tonight, if you would you turn with me to the book of 1 Kings, 1 Kings chapter 17. And I'll just let you raise your hand when you get there, because I gotta be different than everyone else, because they've already done it.
What's the first?
It's 1 Kings 17. So just raise your hand when you get there. That doesn't count. You gotta raise it up. Like you're proud of it. There you go. That's better. Woo! There. See, we're getting the concept.
1 Kings what?
17. Silence. Wait till the buzz y'all get there. Just turn to 17 out. Stay there. 75% of you. I'm pretty sure we've crossed 75% now. Okay. Yeah, we're learning to defy gravity. Ever heard of defying gravity? That's a thing. It's called pick your arm up. Yeah, so now that y'all learned that, this is like Sunday school. The first Sunday school, they didn't just learn Bible stories. Robert Rakes, we've been learning about him in school recently. And he actually, I believe the school opened at like 6 in the morning and it closed at 4 in the evening. But then after, the lessons would end at 4, but they also had to go to a church service that evening. But he actually started the first Sunday school with orphans. He found them on the street. He wanted to do something with them. So he pulled himself, he raked together a staff of people with as little money as he did have. He tried his best and he got them together. And he really changed these children's lives. I mean, we can look at history and Sunday school is now an actual thing. And everybody loves Sunday school. But he actually taught them to read, to write, cipher, all that fun stuff, mathematics. Yeah, that was actually fun. Anyway, so that's off topic. That was a rabbit trail, but still. Yeah. 1 Kings chapter 17 and verse 1. Now, tonight I kind of wanted to do an overview, but kind of wanted to get us caught up to speak to what's happening where my message takes place. But in verse 1 it says, And Elijah the Tishbite, who was of the inhabitants of Gilead, said unto Ahab, As the Lord God of Israel liveth, before whom I stand, there shall not be dew nor rain these years, but according to my word. You might be seated. So we know that here, pretty much, the land of Israel will stop having rain because one man's sin. Elijah comes to him and says, You know what, God's sick of this, so no more rain. And actually today I noticed for the first time that he didn't just say no more rain, no more dew either. So not a single drop of any liquid, precipitation, dew, whatever you want to call it, nothing hit the face of Israel. And we can tell this for 3 years. Because in the first verse of chapter 18 it says, And it came to pass after many days that the word of the Lord came unto Elijah in the 3rd year, saying, Go, show thyself unto Ahab. So we can tell here that it had been 3 years without any drops of rain. Nothing. No precipitation, no dew, no nothing, no liquid. So we can imagine that the earth is really dry. Because if Virginia goes without rain for more than a month or two, we get fires everywhere as we're experiencing now. The sand, it's like sandy soil, it's horrible. But tonight, if I had a title for it, it would be Rain on a Dry Ground. Rain on a dry ground. I wonder tonight if any of us can relate with Israel. Are you a dry ground? That once fertile, amazing, green, lush land that was ready to do God's service, that had plans, had places to go, people to see, things to do. Are you now stuck with sandy soil, washed up, dried up, feel like you can't do anything? Do you reach down into your soil and you pick up a big handful and when you pull it up, it just falls through your hand like sand? Is that your ground tonight? Is that what you're struggling with? Has it been so long since you've gone without rain that nothing can grow in it? Nothing can grow in it. Tonight, I want to tell you that this is the stage that Israel, they are so dry, nothing can grow in it. It has been so long since they have had a single drop of rain, just like us. Sometimes we don't understand why God isn't moving in our life. We don't understand why we're not encouraged. We don't understand why we feel almost maybe lost. Even though we do everything to the book, just the way we think that we're supposed to do it. And yet we still find ourselves in dry ground. Nothing. It's been forever since we've seen rain. And oh, for just a drop of rain would change our lives. Well, I want to move on to 1 Kings 18 and verse 41. It says, and Elijah said to Ahab, this is talking about after he had this showdown with Ahab's prophets, and he has slain a bunch of them, and actually he slew all of them that were there. And in 41 it says, and Elijah said unto Ahab, get thee up, eat and drink, for there is a sound of an abundance of rain. So Ahab went up to eat and to drink, and Elijah went up to the top of Mount Carmel, and he cast himself down upon the earth, put his face between his knees, and he said to his servant, go up now, look toward the sea. And he went up and looked, and there is nothing, and said, there is nothing. And he said, go again 7 times. So I can imagine that Elijah, he's like, Lord said it's going to rain today, so I'm going to pray for rain. And he goes up to the top of that mountain. I would imagine he's probably kicking around in that dust and like, wow, we really do need rain. Even up here, where it's, it's a little bit more fertile, it's still really dry. And so he's walking around, and he drops his knees, and he puts his head between his knees, and I can almost see Elijah screaming and saying, God, help us. We need rain. And more than we need rain, we need you in our lives. We need you to fertilize the grounds of our heart, to make it fertile once again, to replenish it, to water it, to nourish it. And he looks at his servant and he says, all right, go check. Go see what you see. Out over the ocean, just go, hurry up. And I can imagine the servant, he runs up the path, and I can see, he pushes back the bushes, and he steps out, and he looks way over the horizon, and he's sort of like, I see something. Nope, that was just a bug. Wait, nope, just a bug. Nothing. And so he goes back and tells Elijah, and Elijah's like, you see them? He's like, no, nothing. It's empty. The sky's empty. The ocean's almost empty. We're out of water. There's nothing. Absolutely nothing. And so Elijah gets down on his knees, and he prays again. Tears rolling down his face. He's screaming to God to help him. And he sends the servant back up again. The servant goes back up. No. Goes back down and tells Elijah. Elijah prays again. And so we do this again and again and again and again. And I can imagine that final 7th time that, Elijah's down on his knees and he's praying. And he tells the servant, he says, all right, go up and check again. The servant runs up and he checks and he looks way off in the distance. There's an itty bitty cloud about the size of a man's hand. And then we see in verse 44, and it says, and it came to pass at the 7th time that he said, behold, there arises a little cloud out of the sea, like a man's hand. And he said, go up, say unto Ahab, prepare thy chariot, and get thee down, that the rain stop thee not. And it came to pass in the meanwhile that the heavens was black with clouds, and the wind, and there was a great rain. And Ahab rode and went to Jezreel. And the hand of the Lord was upon Elijah, and he girded up his loins and ran before Ahab to the entrance of Jezreel. Rain on a dry ground. Tonight, I don't really know what you're going through. I don't know the life of each and every individual person. But I know that as I sat and I tried to figure out what I was going to say tonight, that I came up with some really good stuff that touched my heart, but it wasn't right. And I felt like a hurricane sitting over the ocean. Pardon the pun, talking about water here, but I felt like a hurricane, just churning and not really going anywhere. And this morning it had rained, and I looked outside, and I could see the drops of water still freshly on the grass, and it's like it hit me in the side of the head. And the thought I had was rain on a dry ground. So I don't know who needed this tonight, but I do know that someone needed to hear. I hear the sound of an abundance of rain. It may not be right now, and you may not be able to see it in your near future. You may be able to say that, you know what? I don't see where I'm going. I don't know how this is going to work. But I came tonight to joyfully tell someone, I hear the sound of rain. I hear the sound of rain. And I see a cloud way off in the distance, and the sound and the size of a man's hand. And I came to tell some Ahab tonight, get off this mountain because it's very poor. And you ain't going to be getting off anytime soon if you don't. So tonight, I don't know what you're going through. I don't know what you're going through. But I do know the God that I serve. I do know the God that holds our hand through the dry spells. And the God that worships with us, praises and celebrates with us when it rains. So I don't know who I was supposed to encourage tonight. Hold on just a little longer. Because I hear the sound of rain on a dry ground. Doesn't matter how dusty that soil has gotten. Doesn't matter how unfruitful it is right now. I hear the sound of rain. I feel the rumble of the ground as that thunder comes over the horizon. I feel the wind as the sky begins to grow black. And I can see the lightning as it flashes. I hear the sound of rain on a dry ground. If you